She was forced to marry a poor man, but as Sophia Bennett stood in front of the altar, trapped in a marriage she never chose, the so-called poor man beside her, Ethan Cole, knelt not in desperation, but with a quiet, unsettling devotion, adjusting her dress like she was a queen no one else could see. The guest whispered, "He's nothing, just a poor man lucky to have her." Her father avoided eye contact, ashamed of the deal that forced this marriage. And Sophia? She refused to even look at the man she had been sacrificed to. But Ethan never once looked away from her. Not when she stayed cold. Not when she humiliated him with silence. Not when the room laughed at him. Instead, he watched her like she was everything. Then it happened. A small mistake. A wallet slipping. A glimpse of something no poor man should ever have. And in that single second, Sophia's breath caught. Because the man she was forced to marry, the man everyone called poor, might not be poor at all. So who exactly did Sophia just marry? Why would a supposed billionaire hide as a poor man? And if this marriage was forced, then why does he look at her like she's the only thing he's ever wanted? The hall was too bright for how heavy Sophia felt. Gold fabric draped the pillars, crystal chandeliers scattered light across polished marble floors, and the air carried the quiet hum of wealth, old wealth, the kind her family once owned. Yet none of it belonged to them anymore. Not really. Sophia stood still, fingers clenched beneath layers of lace, her jaw tight as the officiant spoke words she wasn't listening to. The same hall had hosted her mother's anniversary years ago, back when the Bennett name still meant power. Back when her father didn't flinch at every phone call. "Do you take?" "I do," Ethan answered before the question fully landed. A ripple of laughter moved through the crowd. "Eager, isn't he?" someone muttered. Sophia didn't laugh. She hadn't even looked at him properly since morning. The first time she saw Ethan Cole had been 2 weeks ago in her father's dim office, the same office that used to overlook a skyline of properties they once owned. He had walked in quietly, dressed in plain clothes, no watch, no car outside. Nothing about him suggested influence. And yet, her father had stood up when he entered. That was the first thing that didn't make sense. Then, without warning, Ethan stepped closer now, and dropped to one knee. The hall went silent. Not a proposal, no. His hands moved gently, adjusting the edge of her dress where it brushed the dusty ground. Careful. Precise. Like it mattered. Like she mattered. Sophia's throat tightened slightly, though she didn't understand why. Someone scoffed. "See how desperate the poor man is." Her father, Richard Bennett, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Once a man who commanded rooms, he now avoided even the gaze of his former associates seated among the guests, men who used to call him partner but now whispered failure behind folded programs. But Ethan didn't react. Not to the laughter. Not to the whispers. Only to her. As he stood, their eyes met for the first time, and for a second, Sophia felt something strange. Not pity. Not pride. Something steady. Controlled. Like a man who knew exactly where he stood, even if no one else did. And that unsettled her more than arrogance would have. "Relax," he said quietly, just enough for her to hear. "It will be over soon." She frowned slightly. Over. That wasn't how marriages were supposed to sound. Before she could respond, the officiant gestured toward the signing table. They moved together. Close, but not connected. As Sophia reached for the pen, her fingers trembled slightly, an involuntary reaction she immediately tried to suppress. She had always been composed, trained by years of high society appearances, charity galas, and business dinners where every expression mattered. But this wasn't a performance she chose. The pen slipped. It fell. Ethan bent instantly to pick it up. And that's when his wallet slipped from his pocket. It hit the floor softly. Time slowed. It opened just enough. Inside. A black card. No logo. No noise. Just quiet authority. Sophia's breath caught. Because she had seen that kind of card once before, years ago, in her father's private office, when a group of elite investors had visited. Men who controlled industries without ever appearing in public records. Her father had told her then, in a rare moment of honesty. People who carry cards like that don't introduce themselves. The world introduces them. Ethan picked it up quickly. Too quickly. It's nothing, he said. But his voice didn't match the words. And as Sophia stared at him now, something shifted deep inside her certainty. Because for the first time since this nightmare began, she wasn't just trapped. She was curious. The applause came late, thin, forced, like people clapping out of obligation rather than joy. Sophia barely heard it. Her mind was still stuck on the card. Black. Silent. Powerful. Impossible. She signed her name anyway. Sophia Bennett. The ink looked heavier than it should have, like it carried the weight of everything her family had lost. Ethan signed next. Ethan Co. Simple. Clean. No hesitation. Too steady for a man everyone called poor. Congratulations, the officiant said, smiling politely. Sophia pulled her hand away quickly as Ethan reached for it. I can walk on my own, she whispered, her voice controlled but cold. Ethan nodded once. I know. No argument. No ego. That unsettled her more than arrogance would have. As they turned to face the guests, flashes from cameras lit the room. Faces blurred into one, former allies of her father, distant relatives, opportunists who came not to celebrate, but to witness the fall of the Bennett name. Near the back, a man in a dark suit stood still. Watching. Not clapping. Not smiling. Just observing Ethan. Sophia noticed. The music grew louder as the evening deepened, but Sophia felt strangely disconnected from it all. She needed air. Without a word, she stood and slipped away from the head table, ignoring the curious glances that followed her. The corridor outside the hall was quieter, dimmer, lined with framed photos of events her family once hosted. She paused briefly at one. A younger version of her stood beside her father, both smiling confidently. Untouchable. That life felt like it belonged to someone else. You always leave when it gets too loud. Ethan's voice came from behind her. Sophia didn't turn. And you always follow. Only when I'm worried. That made her scoff softly. You don't know me well enough to worry. A bit past. I know enough. She turned then, studying him more carefully than before. The simplicity of his clothes. The calm in his posture. The way he held himself, not like a man trying to impress, but like one who didn't need to. Her eyes dropped briefly. And stopped. His wrist. A watch. Subtle. Elegant. Definitely not cheap. He noticed her gaze and adjusted his sleeve slightly. Too late. Poor men don't wear watches like that, she said quietly. Ethan met her eyes. Not everything is what it looks like, Sophia. And this time. He didn't sound like he was explaining. He sounded like he was warning. The night stretched on, but the unease didn't leave Sophia. If anything, it grew sharper. After the final guests began to leave, the hall slowly emptied into silence. Staff cleared tables, folded chairs, erased evidence of a celebration that never truly existed. Sophia stood near the entrance, waiting. For what? Ethan asked, stepping beside her. My ride? A pause. It's already here. She frowned. My father said. I know what he said. Something in his tone made her turn. Outside, parked beneath the soft glow of the building lights, was a car. Not extravagant. But not ordinary either. Clean. Quiet. Expensive in a way that didn't need to announce itself. Sophia's chest tightened slightly. That's not mine, she said. It is now? She let out a short, disbelieving breath. You expect me to believe a poor man owns that? Ethan didn't react to the jab. Instead, He walked ahead and opened the passenger door for her. The gesture was simple, respectful, intentional. After you. She didn't move immediately. Her eyes searched his face, looking for cracks, hesitation, something that would confirm what she already believed. But there was nothing. Just that same quiet certainty. And for reasons she couldn't explain. Sophia stepped forward. Not because she trusted him, but because something told her walking away might be the bigger mistake. The drive was quiet. Too quiet. Sophia sat stiffly, her fingers resting lightly on her lap, eyes fixed on the passing city lights. She knew these streets, had grown up driving through them in luxury cars that announced their presence. This car didn't. But everything about it felt refined. Intentional. Ethan drove calmly, one hand on the wheel, his posture relaxed, like a man used to control rather than chaos. You drive like this often? She asked suddenly. Like what? Like nothing can touch you. A faint smile touched his lips. Maybe I've just learned what actually matters. She studied him again. That answer didn't belong to a struggling man. The car slowed. Not toward the modest apartment her father had mentioned, but through iron gates. Sophia's breath caught slightly. The gates opened without question. No security check. No hesitation. They drove into a quiet compound lined with carefully maintained buildings, minimal, elegant, expensive in a way that whispered instead of shouted. This isn't where I was told we'd live, she said slowly. Ethan parked, then turned to her. No, he replied. A pause. Then, softer. It's where you'll be safe. Something in his voice shifted the air between them. Because that didn't sound like convenience. It sounded like protection. And Sophia suddenly wondered. From what? The apartment was nothing like Sophia expected. Minimal. Tasteful. Quietly luxurious. Not extravagant, but everything in it was chosen, not bought carelessly. The kind of place that didn't prove wealth, it assumed it. Sophia stepped inside slowly, her heels soft against polished floors. Her eyes moved from the clean lines of the furniture to the large windows overlooking the city. This isn't temporary, she said. It wasn't a question. Ethan closed the door behind them. No. She turned to face him fully now. Then stopped pretending. A silence stretched between them. Not awkward. Measured. You think I'm pretending? He asked. I think nothing about you makes sense, she replied sharply. Not the car. Not the house. Not the way people look at you. Her voice lowered slightly. Not that card. Ethan's gaze held hers. For a moment, it felt like he might say everything. Instead, he walked past her. There's food in the kitchen, he said. You should eat. Frustration fled. Don't do that. Do what? Act like this is normal. He stopped, but didn't turn. This is the safest version of normal I can give you right now. Sophia's chest tightened. Because again. That sounded like protection. Not explanation. Sophia didn't eat. Even after Ethan disappeared down the hallway, she remained standing in the living room, her thoughts circling the same question, who are you? The silence pressed in. Then. A faint vibration. She turned. Ethan's phone. Left on the table. It buzzed once, then again. Sophia hesitated. Then stepped closer. The screen lit up. No name. Just a message. The board is asking questions. We can't delay much longer. Her heartbeat quickened. Before she could think twice, another message appeared. Mr. Cole, the Bennett situation is attracting attention. Sophia froze. Mr. Cole. Not Ethan. Not Paul. Something else. Footsteps. She stepped back quickly, her breath uneven just as Ethan re-entered the room. Their eyes met. He didn't look at the phone. He looked at her. You shouldn't touch things that aren't yours, he said quietly. His voice wasn't angry. But it wasn't soft either. Sophia swallowed. Then stop hiding things. A long silence followed. Heavy. Unavoidable. Then Ethan stepped closer. Not threatening. Not gentle. Just certain. I'm not hiding, he said. A pause. I'm waiting. Sophia's brows tightened. For what? His gaze didn't leave hers. For the moment you're ready to hear the truth. And somehow, that felt more dangerous than any lie. Sleep didn't come easily. Sophia lay awake, staring at the unfamiliar ceiling, her thoughts louder than the silence around her. Every detail replayed, his calmness, the messages, the way people looked at him like they knew something she didn't. By morning, she was done waiting. She found Ethan in the kitchen. Already awake. Already composed. Like he hadn't slept either. We're talking, she said. He didn't argue. All right. The ease of his response unsettled her. Sophia stepped closer, her voice steady but tight. No more half-truths. No more deflection. Who are you? A long pause followed. Ethan studied her carefully, not like a man cornered, but like someone measuring timing. Then he reached into his pocket. Pulled out his wallet. And placed it on the table between them. Open it, he said. Sophia hesitated. Then did. The black card stared back at her. Up close, it felt heavier. Real. Not imagined. Her fingers trembled slightly. This isn't something a poor man carries. No, Ethan said quietly. Her eyes lifted slowly to meet his. Silence stretched. Then. Because I'm not poor, Sophia. Her breath caught. But before she could speak, he added. And this marriage wasn't what you think either. And just like that, everything she believed began to crack. Sophia stared at him, her grip tightening slightly on the edge of the table. Then explain it, she said, her voice lower now, but heavier. Ethan didn't rush. Didn't defend. He simply pulled out a chair and sat, like a man about to place truth carefully where it couldn't be misunderstood. Your father didn't choose me by accident. Sophia's brows pulled together. He came to me, Ethan continued, after everything collapsed. A flicker of memory surfaced, or late nights, hushed calls, her father's trembling hands the day the company fell apart. You're saying, she swallowed, you're connected to that. I was the deal. Silence. Sharp. Unforgiving. Sophia's chest tightened as pieces began shifting violently into place. You destroyed us, she said. No, Ethan replied calmly. I exposed what was already breaking. Her eyes burned. And the marriage. This time, something softer entered his expression. I refused at first. That made her pause. He insisted, Ethan added quietly. Said it was the only way to protect you from what was coming. Sophia shook her head slightly. Protect me, by trapping me. Ethan leaned forward, his voice steady, but deeper now. I didn't agree because of him. A pause. The kind that carried weight. I agreed because of you. Her breath caught. Because something about the way he said it didn't sound like obligation. It sounded like something much older. Something she hadn't remembered yet.